Hi, everyone. I'm just going to close that. Hi, everyone, and welcome. Great to have you here at UBC Camp's Play and Learn at Home live stream. My name is Tara Moreau, and I work at the UBC Botanical Garden, uh, where I have a wonderful job of introducing people to plants and to our beautiful garden. I run our sustainability and community programs, and I'm thrilled that you could join us here today. Before we get started, I just wanted to share a few housekeeping notes for our live stream today. It's important that all participant video and audio should be turned off. And if you or any of your caregivers have a question, you are welcome to use the chat function, and one of our moderators will respond as soon as possible. We're going to be doing some drawing of butterflies near the end of it. So it's a good idea to grab some paper and pencils or some markers, and if you want to use that near the end. So I'm recording here from my home today, and I'm incredibly proud to live and work on the unceded Coast Salish territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people. Acknowledging the land and the Indigenous people whose land we are on is really important to me. And before we start today to talk about biodiversity and butterflies, I want to pay my respect for the enduring relationships between Indigenous people and the land where we live, work, and play. Today we have 4 learning objectives. So I'm thrilled to introduce you to my friend Winnie. She's going to join us from the David Suzuki Foundation and talk to us about the Butterfly Way gardens that she is coordinating across Metro Vancouver. Then we're going to learn some basics about flowers and butterflies and pollination. We're going to dissect this beautiful flower on my head, and we're going to look for some nectar at the base of it. Then we're going to explore a little bit about some citizen science work that we're doing with the David Suzuki Foundation and Winnie and all of her rangers to monitor butterflies in this area. And then we're going to finish off and do some coloring. And so you can learn how to ID butterflies and better understand which ones you might be able to see this summer. So without further ado, I would like to introduce to you Winnie, who is incredible and has mobilized a whole force of people around our region who love gardens and butterflies. And Winnie, over to you.
Thank you so much, Tara. Hi everyone. So I have my ranger hat on. I also have my Butterfly Way t-shirt because I'm the host for the David Suzuki Foundation's Butterfly Way project. So we've been around town for almost 4 years now because we started in 2017. So it's all over the Lower Mainland, and we also added Vancouver last year, which is our biggest group right now. So just this year, we have 86 new Butterfly Way Rangers, and the number is still going up. So in total, over the years, we now have 200 Butterfly Way Rangers all across town in the Lower Mainland. So if you go back and check with your parents, you never know, maybe they are a Butterfly Way Ranger as well. So what do Butterfly Way Rangers do? Apart from being able to wear this lovely t-shirt that I have on, and then once in a while, we put on our ranger hat. Mainly, butterfly rangers come together to help wild pollinators. So they are butterflies, they are wild bees, birds, bats. And so we plan for them because we know that they need our help. So what do we plant? We plant native plants. So sometimes we call them wildflowers. We also plant non-pesticide plants so that because when we plant for them, these are food and shelter for them. So nobody wants to be living in a toxic environment. So when we plant, we make sure the plants has no pesticide. So when they pollinate and when they also take that as food, then we're not poisoning them. So those are key. So I want to share with you some of the plants I picked out from my garden today. So let me try this. So a lot of our plants are also food plants. So this is the chocolate mint. 2 days ago, it looked absolutely beautiful, but then now it's a little shriveled. But at the same time, when you put in pasta or you put in your soup and salad, they are the best. And they are also very loved by butterflies and bees. And this tiny little thing, usually it grows to be a size of a palm like this. It's called a thimbleberry. And I wanted to share with you because we're living in this COVID time, and a lot of times that we look at resources that we already have in nature, that nature provides us, that we have forgotten about the use for them. So these thimbleberry, when they have a full size, so which is the size of a palm, at some point, our ancestors used them as toilet paper. So that is a very practical thing to do. And I just wanted to introduce that to you guys. And then this is my favorite. So this is the Saskatoon surface berry. So right now it's just starting to grow these little berries. So I clipped this one because I wanted to show you guys, but don't worry, the plant is still doing good. So these little berries are going to grow, and I'm going to make Saskatoon surface berry pies. So maybe I'll share some with Tara, and we'll let you know how it tastes. So we wanted to talk about the butterfly rangers. So what do rangers do? Rangers plan for the butterflies and bees because they are pollinators. When they have done that, they will put a sign like this on their lawn. So if you go around town and see these signs, you know that these are rangers gardening, and they have planted lovely plants that we call food and shelter for our wild pollinators, and they are also non-toxic. And when we've done that, this is what we also do. So I have this little wing on because we are butterfly rangers. So we also flap our wings and celebrate. And so Tara is going to share with you what kind of butterflies are going to show up in the Lower Mainland. So I cannot wait to be able to see the paintings and the drawings that you guys do. So one inspiration for you as well is that this is one of the butterflies that we're sharing. So this is called a West Coast lady. So they're going to show up pretty soon. So if you want to paint a butterfly, so hopefully that this will give you some color inspiration as to what you want to put the colors for them on. And so I know that you guys have a lot of fun things to do. So just a last thing to show you. So all the butterfly rangers eventually, they put together all these plantings, and we share that on the Butterfly Way map. So all of that information is on the David Suzuki Foundation website. And I cannot wait to see like how you guys do with your painting. So have a lot of fun today.
Thank you so much, Winnie. Oh, wait. Thank you so much, Winnie. And just as a point, these Butterfly Way gardens are popping up all over Metro Vancouver. So if you see those signs, you can point them out and say, hey, there's a Butterfly Way garden. I know all about that. So what I'm going to do today to get started in talking about butterflies, I'm going to talk about plants because we're going to start with plants. I work at a botanical garden, and I love plants and all of the relationships that they have with our pollinators. So I'm going to show you what I have on my desk down here, and hopefully you can see that. Let's shift this. Oh wait, I have to do a slight technical piece. So here on my desk, I have the makings of a cross section of a flower. So on Earth Day, I did a session on dissecting a flower, and we're going to build a little bit on that. If you didn't get to see it, you can go back and learn more about flower anatomy and the importance of flowers. And right now, flowers all around the city are blooming, and we live in such a beautiful city with so many blooms. So flowers are actually the reproductive organs of plants, and they ensure the future survival of plants. So here we have petals, and I'm putting the male pieces of the plant together. And what we call these are the stamen, and these produce the pollen. And pollen here are my small little pieces of paper. We have some pollen from the plant. So this is the male part of the plant. And I'm also going to add in the female part of the plant. Some plants have only male parts. Some plants have only female parts, and some plants have male and female parts. This one has both. So in this example, this is the female part of the plant. And this is where pollinators come in and are really important, because pollinators, such as my wonderful butterfly that I have here, they come in and they are searching for food, for nectar in this example. And as they move through and are searching for food, they move pollen from the male part of the plant to the female part of the plant. And once the male part of the plant moves to the female, it travels down to the ovules, and there the ovules are fertilized and will become the seeds and the future fruit. So this is a little bit of our flower, and I just wanted to introduce, today we're going to talk about butterflies, but butterflies aren't the only pollinators that are out there. We have butterflies, we have hummingbirds can also be pollinators, as well as bees. There's other animals, but humans can be pollinators. Plants can also be wind pollinated, beetles. There's many different ways that plants have evolved to move pollen, and it's through incredible relationships with different animals. And so today we're going to focus mainly on insects. We're going to focus on the butterfly. So for now, we're going to move our friends over here. I'm going to just shift this. And I wanted to talk a little bit about, hold on. I wanted to talk a little bit about insect anatomy. So I'm going to build our insect, our butterfly, because butterflies are insects. They're in the Lepidoptera order, which is the same as moths. And here I'm building our insect, and we have three main parts. We have a head, which has the antennae, and we're going to come back to its tongue in a moment. We have the thorax, which is the middle part, and then we have the abdomen. And our butterfly also has 4 sets of wings. Just going to get these set up. We have the forewings, and we have the beautiful hind wings. And eventually, oh wait, I think they're not correct here. Eventually, when we get to drawing the insect, it's really helpful to know the parts in the anatomy, because that will help us create really representative images and drawings that help us capture and learn about the insects. So in what I'm going to do, actually, I'm going to leave our butterfly here, and I wanted just to talk about what I made this. This was my adaptation of what butterfly tongue looks like. I'm going to show you. It's just a wire that's rolled up, but butterflies' tongues are called a proboscis, and it's not very common that we see them out. The tongue is generally rolled up into a long circle inside of the mouth, and when the butterfly is searching for nectar, it extends its long tongue to extend into a flower and then rolls it back up. So that's really interesting to think about when we want to understand flowers. So for now, I'm going to move some of this over. I'm going to keep our head, because what we're going to do is we're just going to quickly dissect a flower. We did this on Earth Day. We dissected a tulip. Today, I'm dissecting a lily, and these are incredibly fragrant. The smell is very strong. I actually opened up the window in here earlier because it was very strong. And what we can see here, we can see the pollen is very thick on the outside. In the middle here is the female part. But what I wanted to do is just to show you that you can dissect flowers to go and look at the inside of the parts. So what I'm doing is I'm pulling off 3 of the petals so that we can see it. And even here, the pollen is landing on the cutting board and is coming off. The florist yesterday, when I bought this, she ripped this pollen off so that it didn't make a mess everywhere, because lilies and the pollen are known to make a mess and they'll fall on your table or wherever you're having them. But what I wanted to show, so we have here, I'm going to pull off the stamen, and I wanted to show you a bit of in the middle, which is actually maybe perhaps tricky to see. There's a lot of droplets of moisture, and those are all drops of nectar, which our butterfly is searching for. So if we imagine here, this is the head of my butterfly. We'll just pretend it has a body, but its long tongue, when it goes into a flower, it unravels its long tongue and laps up nectar and feeds that way. So that's a little bit of the importance and some basics of understanding how a butterfly's anatomy connects to the flowers and to the anatomy of a flower. One thing I will point out that I love and I carry around with me everywhere, it's a small, what we call a hand lens. It's a small magnifying glass. This is incredibly interesting and useful to look at the close-up of a flower and to get a closer sense of what you're looking at. So a really helpful tool is a hand lens. So I'm going to move this away and hold on. And now I was going to show you some slides that I prepared. I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about, let me make sure we can share our screen. Hold on, share. Okay, so hopefully you can see there's our beautiful food garden. And I just wanted to showcase this photo. This is one of my favorite photos of volunteers working with staff, working with students to harvest food in our food garden and doing a bit of citizen science. Because what we do is we measure the yields and we try to measure how much food is being produced. So that's our food garden. I'm really excited that the garden is working on a reopen strategy. So we're hoping to open up in the next month or so. Not totally sure when, but we hope to be open and that you'll be able to join us there in person. This is an aerial view of our garden, and you can see it's got such an ocean influence, and we have a lot of trees, and we live in an incredibly beautiful place. The Botanical Garden is part of the Faculty of Science, and so we get to do a lot of science, and we are a scientific collection of plants. This is a beautiful, one of my favorite photos. It captures the biodiversity that we grow in the garden, and many, many different types of plants growing together in different types of habitats. And so my job is to get to bring people to the garden, and we love plants. And this is an example of a field trip of kids coming to the garden and getting to connect with a kiwi vine that grows. And kiwi, like we were just talking about, has male and female parts of their flowers, and the kiwis only grow on the female parts of the flower. We also love pollinators. I see that I have a spelling mistake, apologies. For the love of pollinators. We have beehives, and I learned today that our bees have just returned to the garden. So we're really excited to go visit our beehives again once the garden is back open. This is some of the work that we've been doing with Winnie from the David Suzuki Foundation. This is her team of rangers. They are such a great group of people from all over. So we hosted their group at the garden, and they do a training on what it means to be a butterfly ranger and how to get their gardens growing across the city. We also introduced them to butterfly citizen science. And what does that mean? We talk a little bit about what is pollination. I wanted to show a bit of some bumblebees in action. And I'm sorry, I didn't have any butterflies in action. They're very hard to capture on video, but I did get some bumblebees there pollinating a flower and then moving on. Also talking about who are the pollinators. So I talked a little bit about this before, that there's birds and bees, butterflies, beetles, bats, and more. Lots of different animals can be involved with pollination. And so what is citizen science? So citizen science is basically having people in the public involved in contributing to the scientific process. And what is science? To be a scientist is to follow particular processes. It's also to think about using and bringing together knowledge and also creating new knowledge. And so citizen science has become a really popular way of engaging the public in understanding and participating in science. So there's examples of people from the general public helping to identify new stars in astronomy and looking at bird populations and butterflies. And this website that we have listed here is the David Suzuki Foundation's Bimby Butterfly Way citizen science project page on iNaturalist. iNaturalist is one of the tools. It's an online tool that once you have your parents' permission, you can go in and look at. You can also download it to your phone, but there's other citizen science projects as well. There's Seek, which is a great app on your phone that you can help to identify different things that you see, eBird, and more. Part of what we've been doing with the David Suzuki Foundation is understanding and trying to ask this research question. What species of butterflies are most common in our area? And these questions in science, these research questions guide our work and help us develop hypotheses that we like to test. So if you go to iNaturalist on a website, you can go and you can see all the different types of butterflies being observed. So this is a profile of all the butterflies being recorded in the world. We see at the top that there's 62 different observations and 15 species. Actually, something's funny there. That number should be more, but you can go and explore because there's more than 15 species of butterflies. This next one I'll show you is even here in Metro Vancouver, we are seeing what we have recorded is 51 species of butterflies. And these butterflies here on the screen are the top 5 butterflies that we have been recording in our area. And how cool is that? We have people out monitoring, and then scientists such as myself and others can go and use that data to understand how our populations of butterflies are doing. So here, aren't these gorgeous? The California tortoiseshell. This is the one that I drew and I showed a little bit earlier. I wanted to kind of zoom in and talk about one particular butterfly today because I think this is the one that is kind of most commonly seen and that I'm hoping that you'll get to see this summer. And so when you see it, you can say, oh, there's a Western tiger swallowtail. So butterflies are in the order Lepidoptera. That includes moths and insects. And one of the interesting things is that what defines moths and insects is that they have scales on their wings. And so those scales are what give butterflies, if you were to look at it underneath a microscope or a hand lens, they're microscopic scales, but they are what make the color of butterflies possible, as well as these really unique patterns that we see. So this Western tiger swallowtail, we'll see it's native to British Columbia. You can also, it goes, I think, as far north as California. And they will have plants that they want to search. This is the adult form. We're going to talk a little bit about the life cycle, but they have plants that they like. They like thistle, butterfly bushes, sages, lavender, and more. So the key identifying feature for these is the bright colors of yellow and black. And if you see on the tails of the hind wings, they have tails, which look like long tails. And they also have orange and blue spots that help to identify it. This is the life cycle of the butterfly. We start with an egg. It becomes a larva, which are the caterpillars, and often we don't always notice caterpillars. We have a lot less data and pictures for, but we have the caterpillars, the pupa, which is the chrysalis stage, and then from the pupa emerges the beautiful adult butterfly. So one of the things in thinking about gardens and how to support pollinators, we think about plants as a habitat. They can be a habitat for these adult butterflies to lay their eggs. They also, in the habitat around of plants, can be a place where the butterflies are looking for nectar, as what we were talking about. And butterflies are attracted to different colors, to different shapes, to different odors. And when we think about gardens, we also want to think about bloom times and what's in bloom when. And you know, even now, you'll go out for a walk and you'll see some beautiful flowers in bloom, and then a few days later you walk again and those flowers are no longer blooming. So one of the things I wanted to talk about was observing butterflies, and they're really tricky. To look at, they have such big eyes. They supposedly can view 180 degree view, which means they're very hard to capture by a photograph. They're hard to sneak up on. So some tips that you might want to use is you could use some binoculars. You can definitely look at pictures online. I'm going to show you a few of those. And my general strategy is I try not to collect them. Some people do, but I like to look at them and learn about them by looking at pictures online. Winnie and her team at the David Suzuki Foundation have put together some nice resources. You can learn more if you look at the Vancouver Butterfly Way Gardens on plants that they're helping to put in that support butterflies. Here's two plants. This is Ocean Spray and the Douglas Aster. So you can learn about when they're blooming, how big they'll get, and what growing conditions that they might need. So some other cool resources, at the Spencer Entomological Museum, if you Google that, you can go and look through their whole online collection, and they have these species pinned. And I think it's really interesting because you start to see how many different species there are. And so here even, for example, we were talking, you can see how the coloration, you can easily get confused about which type of butterfly you see. You can say, oh, it was yellow and it was black, but there's lots of different types of species that are yellow and black. Other resources here, you can go and learn. You can visit the David Suzuki Foundation's website. You can visit the UBC Botanical Gardens website. And there's a great resource called eFauna BC. And definitely the best place I would say to get learning is outdoors in nature. Hold on, my slides have stopped moving. Here we go. So I'm just going to reflect. We're going to turn off the slides and we're going to do some coloring shortly. I just wanted to reflect on some of our goals. We wanted you to meet Winnie and learn about Butterfly Way Gardens. We wanted you to learn some basics about the anatomy of flowers and the anatomy of butterflies, a bit about their life cycle. Also to understand what is citizen science and why is it important. And then I'm going to just share a few tips for coloring. So these are some pictures that I drew of butterflies and bees and hummingbirds. And some of the tips that I say that I'm going to sort of start with now is that I like to draw from a picture that I've seen. So I always find a picture that I want to recreate. This one here, I drew a picture of the hummingbird that's on our bird brochure. I thought it was such a beautiful color. A good thing is to start with pencil. And get the shape of the butterfly or the animal you're wanting to color. Start with pencil and then move on to colors. And the goal is for us to have fun. And it's such a great way to observe animals and to understand how species might be different. So this one I'm going to show, and then I tried to print it. I'm going to switch. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, but I'm going to show you we're going to get a little bit of coloring set up. Hold on, let me set up here, down on my desk. And just a bit to get you started on your way to do some coloring. These are the things that I like to bring together. So I have my picture of the butterfly that I really wanted to capture. And so I have my paper that I'm going to get started with. I have my picture, my paper, and I'm going to start with my pencil and then add in color. And the other hint I would say is that you don't need to just use one marker or pencil crayon or pastel. I really like to bring in different types of coloring mediums in order to bring a little bit of spark and pop to the pictures that I'm drawing. So this is what you need to get started, and I'm just going to do a quick outline because I'm going to turn it around so I can see it. But what we learned as we go is that this insect, we have a head with the antennae, we have the thorax, we have the abdomen, we have one wing we have the forewing, we have the hind wing, which remember we had the tail, and on this side, and our hind wing with our tail. And so I get the rough image of it's a little hard to see, I'm sorry. I get a rough image with the pencil done, and then I'm going to work and add in the color. I always want to add and continue to put in the species name so that I can remember what species I'm working with. So that brings us to the end of, close to the end of our session. Hold on one second. I wanted to thank you for joining us today. I wanted to let you know that there's another session with UBC Camps tomorrow at 11 a.m. for kids ages 6 to 8. It's Tennis 101 with Tanya from UBC Tennis Center. This current session has been recorded and will be posted on UBC Camps YouTube channel. And thank you so much for coming today. It was wonderful to share this time with you. The garden is hopefully opening up very soon, and we hope to see you there. Thanks so much. Have a great day.